Okay, so we're going to complete this square, and we're just going to look at 2 additional problems today, and you'll have the rest of the time to work. And so what's the first thing I'm going to do here? I could add 8 to both sides. That could be. So if I add 8 to both sides, this is what I'm left with. What else what else do I need to do now? Divide by 3. Now this one is not going to be a real nice and neat problem because you can see I've already got some fractions
I
involved.
think there's some weird feelings.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I've got x squared plus 10 thirds x, and that's going to equal 8 thirds. Okay. So now you take half of your x terms. So half of 10 thirds is how many thirds? 5 thirds. Okay, so now I'm going to square it, and I'm going to add it to both sides. Oops. So on the left side, remember now we actually factor, we reverse FOIL on that one. That's odd. There we go. And so what will go inside the parentheses? X plus 5 thirds. On the right side, I'm going to add those two together. 5 thirds squared is 25 over 9. Okay, so really I've got 8 thirds plus 25 ninths. And what does that come out to be? 49 ninths. Now how do you solve that? Find the square root. Important thing to remember about the square root is the plus and minus. So on the left side you have x plus 5 thirds. On the right side I have the square root of 49 over the square root of 9. What's the square root of 47 thirds? Okay.
What if you can only find the square root of one number in the fraction?
Then what you do is you leave it as a root. So if you had something like this, you would leave that there. Okay? And then you need to simplify this. So we remember how we simplify that? You would take this times root 2 over root 2. So 1 times root 2 is root 2. Root 2 times root 2 is root 4, which is 2. So you would need to simplify it if you have a root in the denominator. Okay? So final step, oops, I forgot to put the 5 thirds, or plus or minus. Okay, final step is to subtract 5 thirds from both sides. So I end up getting x equals negative 5 thirds plus or minus 7 thirds. So let's start with negative 5 plus 7. How much is that? 2 thirds. And then I have negative 5 minus 7, which is negative 12 thirds. Can I simplify any of those? Negative 12 thirds is what? Negative 4. So those are your 2 solutions. You could have answers with square roots. That's fine. We're going to look at another one just to make sure we kind of have the steps down. Okay. So what's my first step going to be?
Away 5.
Subtract 25. So on the right side I've got negative 25. Okay, so half of negative 6, which is negative 3. I'm going to square it, and then I'm going to add to both sides. What does the left become? X minus 3 quantity squared equals?
37.
Equals what?
34.
Negative 16. Okay, what do you do now? Square root, plus or minus. On the left, you have x minus 3. On the right, what is the square root of negative 16? 4i. Okay. Remember, the I gets rid of the negative, and then we know the square root of 16 is 4. So, last but not least, what are you going to do? Add 3. So your answer is just going to be x equals 3 plus or minus 4i. So once again, it should be pretty straightforward. Now yesterday you were given an assignment from the book, and then you also have this worksheet, okay, 1 through 10. Okay, so you have the rest of the time to work, try and get that done. We will do quadratic formula on Monday.